In this episode, we speak with Lui Damasceno, Global Managing Partner of Brooks International. Lui has led the firm since 1999, overseeing client engagements focused on execution excellence, operating model transformation, and business performance improvement. He works closely with CEOs to help organizations improve profitability, strengthen execution, and deliver measurable operational results. Lui joined Brooks International in 1984 as an apprentice consultant under founder Robert Lull. Over more than 4 decades with the firm, he has led engagements across North America and Europe, spanning supply chain, logistics, sales force effectiveness, post-merger integration, asset utilization, and profitability improvement. In 1999, he led the successful effort to return Brooks International to private ownership and has since overseen the firm's global growth. Brooks International is a management consulting firm specializing in execution excellence, helping organizations accelerate strategic initiatives and improve operational and financial performance. The firm was recognized by the Consulting Report among the top consulting firms of 2026. I'm your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to follow.
RJ Lumba is the Executive Chairman of Market Insight Media and Managing Partner of GrowthCap. He is the host of Top Consultant, a podcast featuring today's best consultants who advise and provide services to corporations, governments, nonprofits, and other organizations. Executives and key decision makers tune in to Top Consultant to identify the most knowledgeable and experienced consultants for their most important projects.
Lui, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's a delight to be with you.
Likewise, my pleasure. Pleasure meeting you.
I think a good place to start, for the benefit of our audience who may not be as familiar with Brooks International, is how the firm got started. It's been around for decades. How it got started, maybe a little bit about the history, and then where you focus most on today.
Sure. The firm was founded by 2 GE execs. Actually, it was founded in 1960. And these were executives that actually left GE that were very, very big contributors to GE's success, running conglomerates of this nature. The firm was founded on the principle of service to CEOs. So it is extending the reach of the CEO, delivering operating model upgrades, driving profitability, but it's a value creator and it's private and intimate. And in extending that reach, there are very significant profitability performance impacts that are being made. So we're predictive and we're mostly considered a return on invested capital equation. So we're paying ourselves off, if you will, in the course of our engagement work. I joined in 1984, so I've been here for quite some period of time. And just as a matter of note, the reason I did join is because of the execution side of this business and the framework to business versus consulting, right? So we're in that value creation business logic.
And can you give us a sense for kind of the breadth of the organization today? Like how many folks do you have there and how's that kind of distributed?
Right. So the firm is in a growth position at the moment. We have offices. There's a holding company in the USA that owns Brooks USA, Brooks Canada, Brooks UK, and Brooks Germany. The German entity serves the EU. We're about 200 people, size of the firm, growing. So the international presence is Eastern, Western Europe, Scandinavia, really in North America, which canvasses the commercial footprint. So we have resources that are meeting with CEOs in that geographic region.
And what would be some kind of good examples of the type of work Brooks does? I'm not sure if you can mention specific names of companies, but if you can't, that's fine too, just to get a sense for the types of projects or engagements you work on.
Sure. Yeah. The motivation typically is something's driven, a situational requirement, if you will, for outside support. And I'll give you an example. Carve-outs. We do carve-outs, post-merger, integration, pre-exit strategy work to secure that they're in an optimized state. Carve-outs are complex because somebody just picked up somebody, carved something out and you need to plug it all back in. So when it comes down to that, it's we had one just recently. It was out of Norway, but it was about $1 billion carve-out that they purchased, and it was in the large mining sector. But it was missing about 4 to 5 percentage points of EBITDA. So it was a good to great. Most of our work is good to great. It's about bringing out that next step, that original projection of what should have been on the bottom line, and getting it to be achieved, right? So changing the operating model and upgrading it, plugging it in correctly, because carve-outs kind of come with various pieces missing, if you will, that need to be reset. So SIP framework, sales and revenue generation, the support arms that drive a business that used to be in the predecessor organization that now need to be reset. Those are the kinds of things you'd see us do, as an example.
That's a good example. And in this particular case, that's a sizable carve out. And it seems like, a holistic kind of approach to consulting on how to get those EBITDA percentages, to go up. Why did this particular client choose Brooks over other consulting firms? There must be a unique offering that Brooks has.
This situation was a advanced situation that required clear upgrades in the operating model. The client sponsor for this got to know us and was enamored with again, we're a fully documented company, so we're a content-biased organization. So how does SIP framework work? How do you maximize, and hit the objective? Well, you've got to make sure you understand the revenue stream and to what extent it's going to produce in forward time, because there are lead time considerations. That revenue's got to be balanced with capacity and costs, if you will, that are already deployed in the footprint. So you've got to offset that. So things like this, not to bore you with the details of the structural logic, but we come ready-made with delivery of those kinds of upgrades, right? So the clients are buying into and requesting that we assist their organization in making the upgrades and their operating model upgrades and infrastructure, if you will. So we're not facilitating, and we're not just solving problems. We're changing the literal way they run their business and secure that it becomes predictive. And that includes the organizational dynamics. The other thing I would say in this carve-out logic, there was a cultural integration that had to occur because the predecessor organization ran it very differently than the new owner. The new owner was actually way more predictive in the way it expected things to behave with different tools and different requirements. So getting that organization behaviorally to address it and to behave according to that was also a part of it.
Mm-hmm. And so in this particular case, it was in the mining industry, I believe you said.
It was.
Can you tell us a little bit about other sectors that you do work in?
Yeah, sure. We've been with every Class 1 rail in North America over the years. Very different kind of logic path, but very similar in so many different ways. But the post-merger has been part of that driving request for us to be there. Heavy demand on a rail network will create potential conflict within. We had one in particular that was a post-merger situation. The one organization that was merged with the other ran to time. It was a predictive rail. The other ran to money, which meant it made changes in the deployment of the asset base. So we had to synchronize the footprint and drive the operational and business performance linkages. But we had to create an operating model, if you will, for the terminal and field work that had to go on to secure the transportation plan was not only anticipated, but was received and then followed. And so the network was running through optimization of departures and train assembly. So we do this kind of technical work, and it's really countdown based. It's another really important. So forward thinking and forward looking planning tools and methods to secure that when you count down to a departure, you're optimizing the actual release, if you will. Whether it's in airlines, we've done major airlines here in the States and abroad. We've done mining work, but in every single case, the consistent thread in that is the accountability for the resource organization to be aware of what's coming at them in anticipation to be prepared for an execution of either a shift or a departure or something of that effect. So the operating side of the business is linked to the financials.
In this kind of evaluation of the operating model, how often is it that you're trying to optimize the team or work on organizational structure?
That's a really good question. The organizational structure and the people that drive the organization are really critical. So we have an organizational development part of our work that starts with the leadership body and its consensus and then alignment at the leadership team level, and then further alignment into the organization. So clarity of role brings clarity of decision logic. Accounting for metrics, quantitative reasoning is enabled through good information flowing to people that have proper alignment to their decision obligations. And then further linkage into performance management is what really creates an environment and people in it that are clear about their purpose and how they connect to the others. And it executes the strategy because the quantitative part is now set with expectations that are measured and they have very clear goals and objectives that they're following. So leaving at the end of the day, knowing you've done great, contributing to the success of the enterprise is very much a byproduct of a strong organization that way.
hmm over the years or over the decades, you've interacted with a lot of companies and a lot of CEOs. Are there certain traits in CEOs or maybe rising stars within an organization that help clue you in to whether or not they're going to be a great leader?
Yeah, CEOs it's a very complex role, as you well know. The ones that I have seen over the years that do exceptionally well, they're like these involved parents, right? They know the math. They know what the positions that are in their report to them should be doing. They align and get consensus with that group. So that group is in true consensus with the CEO position. And there's a high expectation that the countdown logic is being applied. So they're preparatory, right? They're anticipating the need for revenue. They understand the master business plan. They're using modeling to secure that the future month will be in coordination, but they're using lead times to realize that you reach a point you can't react any longer, right? You're stuck with where you're going to end up. So that forward thinking logic deployed in that team is essential. So not being shy about it, right? Really having direct relationships that are driving accountability to the team, and they're unified as a leadership body that's in full consensus and focusing on their business. And also not just profit, right? So the three dimensions, customers, employees, and shareholders need to be inside that circle of influence and knowledge and focus. So the best CEOs out there are really balanced in those three, but never lose sight of the profit.
hmm Have you also seen kind of common pitfalls where the CEO in place does not work out? And typically, why do they fail in that role?
I would say they fill in that role. They're releasing a tremendous amount of authority in the organization. If they're facilitating the position and they're enabling the organization to be largely decentralized in its decision making. And I get everybody's got a voice part. I get everybody's got to have a contribution. I'm really clear about that. But the enterprise is there for a reason. It's there to serve customers, shareholders, and employees. And it has to be aligned to the purpose of its existence and its objectives. But if you don't get that to happen as a CEO, you're presiding over something that's literally out of control and is not going to land in the proper destination.
I'm really curious. I'm fascinated by this with like organizational structure and leadership. When you get, a business, say it could be a conglomerate and it has, multiple parts, maybe multiple different geographies, business lines, leadership. Do you typically find that there's cohesion, like a one team orientation, a common kind of vision and purpose, or can that exist in like separate business units? Can you treat them as kind of disparate pieces that all contribute to the whole?
That's a really good question. The business unit needs to be a contained perspective, right? That business unit needs to have a purpose. So we tend to focus on the separate P&L has its own purpose. If you're in a conglomerate, you may have different businesses doing different things. But those leaders have to treat their part of that business logic and that larger business enterprise as a single business within that enterprise. We've done divisional work where one of our clients was a private equity owned $3 billion. It was a flexible packaging company. And it was a post-merger, $1 billion companies came together to make one. And they were doing the same thing. They had to run 15% EBITDA across the network, and there were 32 different sites. But in that case, those sites had to be unified in their profile. You have other organizations that have completely different units. They're doing different things. They have different customer base. So they need to be separated and isolated in their objective for that P&L and that leader to drive their specifics. The underlying elements do remain the same. I mean, you're still following the same strategic objectives, need to coalesce into execution logic or operating model enablement that delivers the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Now let's turn our attention to AI. Would love to hear how maybe you're incorporating AI into the conversation with your clients and what you're looking to offer with regards to AI expertise or AI knowledge sharing.
AI is making its way in our clients. They have teams that are thinking through, where does AI best apply itself? We use AI to expedite, the assembly of data sets, to process, like in a maintenance environment, you can process a tremendous amount of performance data to get to conclusions more rapidly. You've got to be a little careful with what you want it to do. So there's a lot of energy around its use in application, But there's a sorting out period that's going on right now that I don't see a clear direction at 100% of anything, actually. But a lot of murkiness is going on, and there's a lot of buzz about it and a lot of desire to have it, do great things. And a lot of people aren't clear about how exactly it needs to connect to, solid foundations that do exist. So, we've seen over the period of all this work, even agile, if you're not careful, you'll let people interfere, unfortunately, with very important decisions, like which metrics to use and where to use them, when there are ways to know which ones are which and which ones should be used where, and so on and so forth. Well, AI could potentially do some of the same, right? It'll make decisions if you're not careful because you didn't ask the right question. Things like this are part of the package. I think it's going to be an amazing tool, and it's going to advance a lot of really great things, but I believe it's evolving as we speak, and it needs to settle into where it's going to really apply. But we're using it more and more as we evolve in the right spot. We do control its assembly and where we apply it.
In terms of Brooks, I mean, you've been at the helm for a long time. How do you approach, leadership? What's most important to you? What's always top of mind as you're kind of managing and leading this organization day to day?
Well, it's top of mind. We put a lot of energy into a structured approach because we're committed to value and speed of assembly. The clients that we serve are very serious people. So we have, modified the recruitment funnel, if you will, to secure that we've got the right exact talent coming through. We train our own people here. We put a tremendous amount of energy. We have the best minds we have had. Spent about 2.5 years filling out and creating a methodology guide. So we're a fully documented organization. So today we've got a curriculum and a certification. We treat it like an airline, and our resources are flying airplanes on behalf of clients. So when you put us in, we're predictive in terms of the outcome because we have a very solid perspective about how that business should run. Doesn't mean we're know-it-alls. We impose our will. That's not it. But it's a matter of having knowledge base that you can apply. For example, SIOP framework and how you balance the revenue capacity footprint, the scheduling capacity deployment, the capacity readiness, counting down to execution, things like that we're known for. And our people are trained here and developed here. Because when you make promises to very important people and, the largest part of their non-family application itself is involved, then you've got to be very serious about delivering these outcomes. So we need the right resources, the right capacity. And I spend a lot of my time making sure that I understand the clients and what we're committing to deliver the outcome. And I do drive accountability to the resources here. We practice what we preach.
And, I guess to that, you spend some time kind of cultivating, people within the organization. Is there kind of like this long tenure for folks that are kind of closer to the top?
Well, there is a long tenure in this organization. Yeah, there's a lot of people that, not because there's nothing better to do, it's because they love what we do. Once you deliver in a situation where many that you're working with don't believe it's possible and you deliver it, you get it there, that's exciting and a lot of fun. There's a lot of joy and intrinsic value that people get. So leaving is a very difficult thing. Even retirement sometimes are complex. People tend to be very committed to the organization, love what we've done and who we do it for. So there's a lot of even part-time contribution at the top, behind the scenes support, mentoring, jumping in here and there to secure we get the math right, so to speak, if it's a complex equation. These kinds of things are going on. But yeah, we have a lot of tenure in the group.
Mm-hmm. And what do you look for? I mean, you talked about the recruiting process, but are there some attributes that you look for in folks, whether they're junior or mid-level or senior?
Yeah, the first order of business is high character content, singularity of self. And, because we're deployed and we're out in these areas, it's what everybody does when nobody's around, so to speak, just to be very candid. CEOs need to count on us. So we look for that. Trust is earned here. It's not something that you can expect or require. It's something that you earn every day based on what you do or not do. Quantitative reasoning underneath the kind of core person and the profile is ability to assemble a point of view, looking at data sets and drawing conclusions, looking at a complex equation and figuring it out. And so you're really on the spot and anticipating to mitigate, right? Mitigate risk, mitigate loss of, even first impression. So we do a lot of preemptive work, but you have to be comfortable with feedback, right? So thick skin, because, career-mindedness means you're going to develop at a very rapid pace. We've won Best Consulting Firm Award, I think 5 years in a row here, mostly because when you come here, the career path is enabling you to grow at a very rapid pace. You're getting access to multiple client environments, but you're also getting access to a tremendous amount of content because we're enriching you with, method and application across multiple functions and departments. You're learning how a business runs, how it should run. You're learning about organizational dynamics, what's a great organizational format versus one that needs to be improved, and things like that. So if you're career-minded, you typically have the rest going on, right? So you come out the other end well endowed with experience and capability, a lot of value.
Mm-hmm. And you talk about, this predictability of maybe the outcomes of when you get engaged on a certain project. From a, I guess like firm economic standpoint, it seems like that could bode well. I mean, if you produce great results, it kind of comes back to you in a way. Have you always used that model? It sounds like you get paid based on what you deliver.
Yeah, we've got a little careful with that one. There are really wise clients who recognize that if we went out and guaranteed something like directly and get paid more, if we made more money for them, how would we be perceived by their own organization? So we look for a partnership arrangement. Our clients are very wise about extending the reach of their own organization. We really only ever get engaged when there's a high-hanging fruit equation that somebody has decided at the top that either the speed of the required outcome or the complexity of the journey that we're going to be on, or it may be at risk. So there's a need for an outside resource to secure that we get there, or that we reverse the current situation so we get there faster. But we do an assessment that identifies where the benefits are going to come from. We will put fees at risk, if you will. In our engagements, they're typically 4 or 5 weeks of assessment. It's a 30 or 40 week engagement. And then you'll see the benefits accruing. We're typically funded throughout the engagement from the benefits we generate, right? So all that is being managed, but it's managed in a partnership arrangement. So we're not selling a used car, so to speak. Hey, we just guarantee you this, because we really need to work as a team and make sure that we're making good decisions along the journey.
We're coming up on time. I have a couple remaining questions. One is, this will veer more towards, the personal, but tell us about yourself. Like, where are you from? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little town south of Erie, Pennsylvania, because the town I grew up in is called Meadville. It's north of Pittsburgh. I always have to say that because a lot of people don't know where it is. I grew up there. My parents were immigrants that arrived in this country. So I'm a first-generation U.S. citizen. I have a business background. I fell in love with business at a very young age because a lot of the people in my community that I served were business leaders. And I was so very impressed with how they functioned and how they made decisions and how they carried themselves. And they were highly effective, and they were, well-to-do, if you will. And that led me into my love of business. And that's how I ended up getting to this company, because I did research, many companies. And the reason I came here is because of the love of execution and value creation, doing something right that is meaningful. I'm one of those people that needs to see an outcome and work toward that attainment, if you will. Got 6 children. I've been doing this virtually my whole career, and they're all getting married now and kind of moving on. I've got 3 grandchildren and 1 on the way. So, I love what I do, and I love doing it.
Final 2 questions. One is, can you tell us about a person who has had a profound influence on you?
First person would be my father. He was an immigrant, no doubt. He knew a lot. He was a common sense genius. He could, sort things out very, very rapidly, although he didn't have a large education. But, he's always there. And he did a lot of philanthropic work in his own way, but he was a worker, and I admired him. But he had high aspirations for his children, and I'm one of them, right? So making him proud was part of what drives me here. Yep.
Last question. Can you tell us about a charity, cause, or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
We build houses. Brooks International has been known because we do a lot with local house building here. We have our teams that come into the office. We have twice a year, the entire company comes together. And we have fun, of course, but part of the coming together is we spend a half a day or a day with Habitat for Humanity, and we help people down here doing that. And sometimes we're in the soup kitchen. But it's about giving back. It's about working as a group and sharing this success that we have with others that are less fortunate.
Wonderful. Well, Lui, I want to thank you again for taking the time. It's been a great conversation.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you for your time as well. Take care of yourself. See you now.